What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is your boy, The Show Off, and I just wanted to give a quick little history lesson based off of this. This post right here. All right? So, real quick, y'all. This is what happened. Back in the 60s, they were starting to give us civil rights, all right? Those civil rights are the things that actually marked black people actually becoming true citizens of the United States. Prior to that, even when we voted, a vote from a black person was only 60% of a person. So prior to that, that's when we became, once that happened, that's when we became a real citizen. Now, with that was coming power. However, what people won't tell you, and what people, those books that we read in schools and all of that stuff, what they won't tell you is that there were cities in the United States that were thriving and becoming economic powerhouses, cities that were predominantly black, cities like Tulsa, Oklahoma, that were mostly black, that were becoming economic powers because back then we had family structure. Believe it or not, back in the 60s, our marital rate, we've always valued marriage. We valued marriage so much that that the slaves were getting married, sneaking and getting married. All right? So, the marital rate in the 60s by black people was well over 80%, y'all. Well over 80%. You know what that means? If you saw 5 people walking down the street, 4 of them were married. Which is phenomenal. All right? So, now you can see, if you're paying attention, you can see a correlation to why I feel it necessary for us to come together so we can actually strengthen ourselves. All right? Because that's when we were at our best place. We had, when you look at what happened with Tulsa, they burned the city to the ground because it was thriving, y'all. They burned the city to the ground. All right? Because it was a black city that was thriving and becoming a powerhouse in the culture. Chicago, same thing. It was thriving economically. So they burned it down. All right? They tore Detroit up. Detroit was the same thing, y'all. So, what they did was, okay, now we're going to start giving civil rights, and they're already strengthening themselves before we give civil rights. So what we're going to do is we're going to find another aspect to attack. All right? So they started to peep out our women and peep out their mannerisms and peep out all of these things, and then they made our black women the targets. Now, don't get me wrong, y'all. I'm not saying that black women are responsible for all of this stuff, because there were men that were actually going out to get a pack of cigarettes or going to get a drink or whatever the case may be and never coming home. All right? I'm not saying that shit didn't happen. It was happening, okay? Now, with that being said, though, they started to offer our black women these things that are contingent on the fact that they weren't allowed to have a man living with them. They started to offer them things like free things like housing, free things like free things like housing, food stamps, health care, so on and so forth, right? So they started to offer them those things, all right? Our black women had a need and a want to be able to do things on their own and not live by the rules of the household, much like today. All right? So when they heard these things and they could live without, having the support of a man, and that's what those things did. And let's be clear, those things were only put here in order for you to barely make it. You wasn't going to live a prosperous life off of those things. You were just going to, you could not work, you could not do anything. So at the same time that they're giving you these things, or whatever the case may be, those things were meant to keep you at a level of poverty. All right, now with all of that being said, y'all, Now, how do you kill a snake? You take away the head. You kill it. You cut off the head. So if you cut off the head, now there's no body, there's no neck, whatever the case may be. So they took the head of the household out of the household. Okay? Then later on, all they did was take that system that they found to destroy us and just improve on it and improve on it and improve on it. That's with drugs. That's introducing the black community to crack cocaine. That's with certain agendas that they put out there. This feminist movement, this feminist gesture that they put out there. That's with utilizing the media. That's with things like child support, things that would further separate the family, and things that would also serve as motivating factors in order to separate the black family, because the black family was too strong. Nothing stronger in the world. Okay? So, all of these things that were meant to drive a wedge were all working against us being family, building together, looking out for one another, loving one another. And it's led to what life is even today. When I say that they have improved on it, you look at what child support has become, y'all. Look at what child support has become. 85% of child support, people who pay child support, are men. Okay? 70% of those men who pay child support are black. That's some real shit, y'all. Do y'all even understand what that means? That means of all the other races, they cover only 25% of all of the people represent all other races, white, Asian, whatever the case may be. 75% of black men pay child support. So if you don't believe me, go look up the numbers. They're available. If you don't believe that there was an agenda created for us, okay. So now, another way that they improved on it was the media. They started to put out certain songs telling women to do shit on their own. It's the way to go. They started to put on TV that being a single mom is great. It's the way to go. You receive so much satisfaction from doing it on your own, or whatever the case may be. But yet, do you notice how black women who have to do it on their own say it with so much anger and disdain? Because really, you know in your heart that that's not the way it was supposed to be. Except they have convinced you that this is the way it was supposed to be. All right? Now, when we keep going into this thing now, these standards, when they were utilizing the media to pass off their agenda, the standards that they have put into your mind that you deserve everything have now made it impossible for a normal working class man to make you happy. You understand? A normal working class man does not want to spend $400 on getting your hair done, $500 on buying you a wig, $600 on buying you a wig, $3,000 on bags and shit. He doesn't want to do that. It wouldn't do anything but destroy him. So now if he tells you no, what do? You go try to find somebody who will do it. So there's your history lesson. That's how we go from this to this. Show off.